I think when we were doing this, we anticipated we were going to have, as we went into those Funded Space Act agreements, and we were moving out into a realm where we were going to be dealing with potentially startup companies, non-traditional aerospace companies. We had to look at it from a different perspective. We needed to look at it more from a business perspective and try to understand the end game that an investor would look at. What the intent of the COTS program was that we were going to be taking on we understood we were going to be taking on probably the early risk with investing money into it, but that the partners were going to be coming forward with their own funds. And in a traditional company like a Boeing or a Lockheed, we knew that they would probably have the funds internally. But if we were dealing with a smaller company such as a SpaceX, a Rocket Plane Kistler, we were probably going to be dealing with companies that maybe having to go out and solicit outside funding. So we really needed to, and one of the things we learned as we went through this was to look at the project and look at the company as a business end item, and that we needed to understand their end game, where they felt they were going to make their money. What we had to look at it from what happens if they're not successful, because an investor is going to look at it in two perspectives. They're going to look at it, okay, if I hit a home run, but they're also going to look at it that what's the worst case scenario? What if I put my money into this company and it fails? What do I end up with? Do I end up with a lot of capital assets? Do I end up with owning intellectual property? They want to understand what it is they're going to end up owning, regardless of success, so that they can hopefully capitalize something out of it. If it becomes an endeavor where they're going to put a lot of money in, and at the end of the day they don't own anything, that's not really attractive. If they're going to put a lot of money into it and they end up owning a big amount of infrastructure, and then potentially offer a service into the world, well, then that's a much better deal for them. So that's something that we needed to learn and understand. I think when we went into it with Rocket Plane Kistler, I don't think we had a solid grasp of that. And when the investors came in, they for a variety of reasons, of which I'm not going to necessarily comment, they ultimately decided that they couldn't invest in there. And I think when we came away from that experience and went into the next round, we were a little bit more conservative and ended up, and we looked at what would the companies end up with. And with Orbital Sciences, we realized they were going to end up with a rocket design that they could use and sell in multiple cases, and they were leveraging existing assets and existing design and intellectual property on spacecraft buses. So they were ultimately going to have a spacecraft bus that they could use for, hopefully, definitely with the International Space Station, but then also a bus design that they could leverage and use in the commercial industry as well. The ability of the companies to maintain their intellectual property, it was important. If you're expecting someone to invest in an effort, they have to be able to feel like they're going to own something at the end of it. If they're going to invest their own money into it, and then somebody else, XYZ company, completely uninvolved with their activity, gets to then capitalize on their investment, that becomes much less attractive. So I think if you're expecting companies to invest, they have to own something at the end, and intellectual property is really where you typically start. If nothing else, they want to own what they've put into it intellectually, and they're going to want to own the hardware assets at the end as well, obviously. But as a minimum, they're going to want to own the intellectual property to what they have and to be able to use that.